A quick disclaimer before we begin. The PEMF podcast does not contain any medical advice, and the content provided is for informational purposes only. If you have any health concerns, please visit a healthcare professional. Welcome back to the PEMF podcast. Today's guest is an internationally recognized fitness champion, fitness model, podcast host, and actor, Roger Snipes. He spent years building a lifestyle focused on performance, resilience, and personal health, combining traditional training with alternative health practices. However, recently, Roger's faced one of the biggest challenges of his life, a diagnosis of stage 2 testicular cancer, which has had a physical and mental effect on his life. But before we get into that, for those of you who may not know you, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and your life and, up until this point?
So, yeah, thanks for that introduction, by the way, Andy. That sounds pretty nice. Thank you. My background is in fitness. I first of all started sprinting when I was around 15 to 18 or 19 years old. And then I stopped and decided to start a family like super early. Imagine that, from 19 years old. But I continued with my fitness journey. In terms of bodybuilding, I was very interested in just building a physique, really, and started lifting weights. And at the age of 31, I decided to compete on the natural bodybuilding competitive stage. And that's what kind of introduced me to the fitness industry. I didn't actually know that there was a position in the fitness industry for someone who was a natural, because I started following bodybuilding from the 80s and I thought that everybody was on drugs. I initially started competing when I opened up one of the fitness magazines which I subscribed to, had a picture on the front cover which showed a guy on there that I felt looked quite average. And I remember I was showing it to friends saying, "Do you think this guy looks better than me?" And they said, "No, you look way better than him." So I was like, how is it he's on the front cover and I'm not? And my friends were like, "Well, that's because you're not known. Nobody knows you." So I was like, man, how can I get people to know who I am then? Because I look better than this guy and I should be on the front cover. So that kind of sent me on a mission, really, where I thought, okay, how can I get on the front cover? And I thought, first of all, I need to know how to pose in front of a camera. And I went for a photo shoot. And it was not until I was at the photo shoot when one of the photographers said that I should consider competing. And then move it further forward, I discovered that there were natural bodybuilding competitions and decided to compete. My first competition was in 2010. And at the time I was 31 years old. A lot of people are starting super young these days. I started, I don't know, maybe quite late. And it was called Mr. UK. And I came first in that competition. And then from there, there was like a journalist that was there writing an article about the competition, and they were associated with ITV. And they wrote the article. It ended up in Fabulous magazine, and ITV invited me to go on TV and do an interview, and also to do like modeling some underwear on national television. I was like, oh my God, wow, this is incredible. So, after that, I was thinking, this was from me just deciding to do something, I was thinking to myself, I just decided, let me try a competition and see how it turns out. And then I end up winning, and now I'm on national TV. I should see what else I can do from this. And to also prove to myself that this isn't just luck. And I done another show, which was more of a smaller show, but I didn't know about shows at the time. And it was called Mr. Britannia, which doesn't exist anymore. And I ended up winning that show. And one of the judges there, he said to me, "Look, Roger, you have a fantastic shape and you shouldn't be doing small shows like this. You should do stuff which is a bit more international." and he told me about Muscle Mania, which was quite big in its day. I don't know what it's doing right now. And then I competed in one of the national shows in UK, which was in Manchester. And I won my class, and I was invited to come back for the finals by the end of the year. And also there was a sports supplement brand called PhD Nutrition that was there in the audience, like watching competitors, and they went backstage. This was actually before I got on the stage and even won. They came to me and they said, "We like your physique and we'd like to sponsor you." And I was like, "Oh my God. Yeah, well, I would love to. I would love to be sponsored, considering how much I was spending on supplements." And luckily I ended up winning the show. And they also invited me to, I think, was it Body Power? I think they probably invited me to Body Power that year. I'm trying to remember. I think so, to Body Power. And but because I was so excited about winning this competition, and I had another competition by the end of the year, I wanted to see if there was anything else. I was just buzzing for competitions. So I decided to compete in another one called Miami Pro. And I ended up winning that one as well. And then I competed in Muscle Mania by the end of the year and won that at my overall, and then got a pro card. I was thinking, this is insane. I was like, why has it taken me so long to do something like this? I always trained for myself, and I never really considered like showing it off to others. I just saw my body as like a what's the word? Like a project to see how fit I can become, just for me, not to show to anyone else. And it's been pretty successful. It can go on and on. I don't want to go too much into that. But
this is all natural as well, isn't it? You've always performed as a natural bodybuilder. Is that correct? Because looking at your Instagram, looking at your physique and stuff, I'm incredibly jealous of your physique. It's very chiseled. We've spoken over a video call a number of times, but I haven't actually met you in person until quite recently in America when we met at the Health Optimization Summit. And it took me back. You're a big guy, and I claim to do biohacking, same sort of thing as you. I go to the gym a couple of times a week. Tell me, what's the secret sauce? What if you could give me a little bit of advice in terms of if I wanted to put a bit of muscle on? Have you got, without going too in depth into it, have you got a couple of key ingredients that I can take and put into my regime?
I think for me and a lot of the clients that I work with, it's about understanding your body. That's what I found, really. There are certain cookie cutter things that can work, but a lot of the time it's about understanding your genetics. Now that we have so much science, we can even look into what your genetics suggests. Like there's genetics tests which tell you what's your power to endurance ratio. But if you don't have the funds for that and you want to keep it simple, I would suggest just enjoying yourself in the gym, to be honest. I think a lot of people go to the gym with, I need to have this outcome by a certain time. Whereas for me, when I started, I really just wanted to enjoy myself. Like, okay, yeah, I wanted to achieve a certain body, but I was just fascinated by all this equipment around me. Remember, like I started pretty young. So when I was in the gym, I was 16 years old and it was like a new playground for me. I was like, wow, look at all of this. These equipment right here is going to make me look like the guys in the magazine. That was what was in my head. And as long as I was there, I was going to achieve that physique eventually. But what's happening these days is a lot of people are getting pretty desperate. Like, I need to get this quickly. And what's the fastest way to get this results?
It's the Hollywood results, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quick fix.
Man. When people are asking me how you can get this fast, I'm like, I don't know. I've been training for over 30 years. But I think one of the key things to focus on is consistency and nutrition. I think those are the main things. Consistency, nutrition, and recovery. So good sleep. I think those are the fundamentals. So, there's so many different exercises to, let's say, train chest. People say, what are the best exercises for chest? I'm like, all of them. There's not just one. There's some days I will go to the gym and I really can't be bothered to do a variation of exercises, and I'll do two, but I'll just do a lot of it. I'll do some volume training, or maybe some pause reps or drop sets or supersets. I'll just mix it up, and just as long as the muscle is fatigued, that's the goal.
Yeah. So it's pushing that extra thing.
I'm sorry?
Pushing that extra mile, isn't it? It's that last rep, a lot of people say.
Yeah, exactly. So, you really want to cause some kind of fatigue. And there's different ways of doing it. There's like drop sets until you really have no glycogen left in the muscle, or you can just try and go as heavy as you want. Me personally, I do like to go heavy. So I don't really do as many repetitions unless I'm feeling weak.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself able to finish 10 reps, then you're going too light as far as I'm concerned. For me, I see it as try to fatigue by about maybe 3 or 4 reps if you're aiming for 6. You want to be struggling by 4 and really trying to push to get to 6. If you're doing 10 reps, for me, that's cardio.
Okay.
You don't want to be
doing
that's
a good tip. That's it. That's what we need to know. I've always tried putting on muscle. That's always been my problem. I'm probably into the cardio stuff. I do my CrossFit and that sort of thing. So building muscle for me has always been a struggle. But no, that's some good tips. And
interesting thing you say there, because like when I was younger and I used to sprint, I used to do a lot of circuit training. Circuit training was my main thing. So I'll be using the skipping rope, battle ropes, and like power bags, Vipers, lots of crunches, all these different exercises. And I'll be going to spin class, boxercise class, aerobics, everything. I was like, I want to be super fit. But then at the same time, I was trying to grow muscle. And it's not until I spoke to bodybuilders and they were like, stop dancing around in those sissy classes that you're doing. If you want to build muscle, stop that crap. So I was like, oh man, but I enjoy it though. I really do. It felt so euphoric. So slowly I started to drop the classes and focus a bit more on the resistance training. Then I noticed my body start to transform.
Yeah, no, good. I'll try and take that on board. Just touching on it quickly, I think you did a bit of acting as well, haven't you? And correct me if I'm wrong, this could have been a dream, but I was watching Netflix, watching The Witcher. And did you appear in that?
Yeah, I think I was in one episode, possibly. Yeah. I can't remember which scene it was. Was I did I have a towel around my waist or something?
That's it. Yeah, I didn't want it to be too graphic, but yeah. It was I was watching that and suddenly I was like, whoa, there's Roger.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of agents, and one is an acting agent, the other is more of a stunt performance type of agent. So they find me different gigs. Sometimes I might do a commercial. Sometimes it might be a small speaking role. Campaigns. I've done many campaigns. I've done one for, it was for DVLA driving.
Okay.
That was very interesting.
Yeah.
And some stunt roles as well. So I've been on quite a few projects of Guy Ritchie as well.
Nice.
Most recently, Mobland. So I'm in like 2 episodes of that one. You're just seeing glimpses of me. Well, it's funny when you're on set and you're recording for so long, you're like, I'm going to be seen. And then when it comes to editing, you just see flashes of you sometimes. You're like, oh, come on, man.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for you because that's on my list. That's on my list to watch. So,
all right.
Yeah, good stuff. So, moving forward to the present, you were recently diagnosed with cancer. So we want to talk about that. And what was take us back to the beginning of this process. So, it's probably not the best thing for you to talk about. Probably don't enjoy talking about this, but when did you realize something wasn't quite right?
So I think when I initially had signs that something was not right, I actually ignored it.
Mm.
Yeah. So I ignored it. Like it happened. I had signs something wasn't right about a year prior to really getting some signals that something is off. So there was a few times I had a small like aching pain in my testicles, and I was like, damn. Because it was kind of similar to when, if you don't ejaculate for a while, sometimes it can feel sensitive. I don't know if that's the same for everyone. But like I was, trying a bit of like, semen retention and all that jazz. And was feeling heavy, and it happened a few times. Like, oh, this feels painful. But it was like when I had ejaculated, then sometimes that went away. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But this time it was like, it didn't matter if I ejaculated, it was still hurting. I was like, why is it still hurting? And then there was times when I was in the shower and I did feel a small lump in my right testicle, but I chose to ignore it ignorantly because I was telling myself, you're too much of a superhuman to be having issues with your body. You're a biohacker. You've been doing this for years. What you're thinking is not true. So I literally fooled myself into believing that it can't be anything serious. So I felt the lump and I was like, no, I'm good. This is just the way my testicle is designed, Yeah. And, every time in the shower I was feeling it, I was like, man, but this doesn't feel right. So there was one day I thought to myself, you know what? Book an appointment at the doctor. Just get it checked out just in case. I booked an appointment and it came close to the day. And then one of my agents called me up and said, hey, Roger, we want you to film on this day. I looked at my diary and it was the same date I was supposed to go to the doctor. So I canceled the doctor, went for filming, and I never rebooked that test again. I just left it. I just convinced myself, do you know what? You're fine anyway. You're all right. And then months later, it seemed completely unrelated. I started to feel a pain in my lower back. And it would just happen during the night. This pain was like pretty intense. And I thought perhaps it was my bedroom mattress. I thought maybe, I've had my bedroom mattress for about 14 years now. Perhaps I need to change it. And then shortly after that, I went on holiday and the back pain still persisted. So I thought, well, that can't be the bedroom mattress then because I'm in a different bed. And one of the nights when I was overseas, the pain got so intense. I climbed out of bed and then I just remember just like rolling on the floor because it was so intense. I was just trying to turn my body in a way where the pain would just stop, but it did not stop. It persisted. So I was like, I need to go to hospital. I went to the hospital. A doctor done like an external exam on my back, couldn't feel anything. I couldn't feel anything. He then asked me to lay down on my back on a bed and he started to press around my stomach, but I felt pain on my stomach. So I was like, that's weird. I feel the pain on my stomach, but not my back. And he suggested to do an ultrasound. And I was like, okay, then let's do it. So we went into the room and I got scanned. And long story short, they said, it looks like you have a tumor in your stomach. I was like, oh, sorry, behind your abdominal wall. And when he told me that, I was like, really? A tumor? It looks like a tumor. So it might not be. I was like, it's impossible. I am a biohacker. That could not happen to me. It was like, I actually found it quite funny. I was like, wow, tumor. How can I have a tumor? That doesn't even make sense. But when I saw the way the doctor was looking at me, I could see that he was like really serious. But still inside me, I still couldn't take it in as like a serious thing. So he said, look, I suggest we do a CT scan. And we end up doing a CT scan. And that was when they also discovered I had blood clots in my legs. And they said, well, this is really serious because with blood clots, it can you can die quickly. More concerned about that. So they gave me some anticoagulants, which are used to thin the blood and avoid clotting in the body. So it was in an injection form, and I needed to inject my body every day. So I was doing that, and I said, all right, well, I'm going to have to continue with the checkups when I go back to UK. So I went back to UK, spoke to my GP, told him the situation, gave him the hospital report. And then he said, okay, we need to do a blood test before I can give you a referral. I'd done a blood test and all the markers were super high. I can't remember all the markers on there, but it was like, yeah, you need to go hospital. Went hospital, and the moment they'd done a scan on me, they were more focused on the blood clots, to be honest. They were like, okay.
I suppose they're the more imminent danger, I suppose, to your health at that one moment.
Yeah. They were like, it looks like you have lymphoma. That was the first diagnosis. So I was like, I've never even heard of lymphoma. What is that? And they said it was like cancer of the blood or something like that. And the lymph node and something along those lines. I was like, cancer? This is wild. How? You know, and it's so interesting because most people, when they hear something like this, like you always hear of people breaking down and crying. But for me, I was fascinated on how that was even possible. Like, doesn't even make sense. But again, they were like, but we've noticed you have blood clots and we need you to stay in hospital because it looks dangerous. It was like, well, what about the cancer? Yeah. We hear about the cancer, but you have blood clots.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I spent a lot of my time in hospital while they were just giving me medication and trying to get a more deeper diagnosis or a deeper biopsy of what type of lymphoma it was. And later on throughout my stay in the hospital, they decided to do another scan, but on my testicles, because I was telling, they kept asking me every day, are you feeling pain in your legs? And all the questions related to lymphoma. And I was like, no. Are you sure I got lymphoma? They said, yeah, because your lymph node is swollen up, so you got lymphoma. And then they were like, how are you feeling though? I'm like, well, not too bad, but my testicles, they're hurting. And then eventually they decided to do a scan. And then once they done the scan, they saw a tumor cell in my testicle. And then from there, they summarized that a germ cell from my testicle had traveled to my lymph node in my behind my abdominal wall and had caused the swelling. So I was like, right, okay. At first I was like, because they said, yeah, you've got a tumor cell in your testicle. And I was like, so what, I've got testicular cancer? They said, yeah. And I goes, and lymphoma? They said, actually, no, you don't have that as well. And they explained the situation. I was like, okay, cool. And then from there, I was thinking, well, I know that testicular cancer is highly treatable. So again, I was like, right, I'm okay. It's just a case of how long is it going to take to get treated?
Yeah. And that's one of the questions I was going to say is, from the minute you hear the word cancer, you know, and it's kind of sunk in, it's kind of, you processed it. What's going on in your head and what are you thinking at that stage? What, you know, other people that are going into this exact moment, you know, you've got cancer, you hear those words. What did you feel and what, you know, was it anger? Was it just disbelief or?
It was mainly that. But it was, and what was quite interesting was when I started to tell family members, it made me question if I was worried enough. Because they were really worried.
Yeah.
You know, my mum, she was tearing up. And my mum, she doesn't really call me too often. I normally call her. But she was phoning me so frequently. I was like, wow. So it takes this for you to call me, yeah? And one of my sisters, like, she fell apart. Like, she was already like looking into the future and not seeing me there. I was like, wow.
I think that's what the word cancer does to a lot of people, isn't it? I think when people hear cancer, they think death sentence. Like the first thing they thinking is, how long have you got left to live? When we know these days with, you know, the medical practices we have, a lot of people call it living with cancer now. It's, you know, it's just becoming a bit more treatable, becoming, you know, a lot of people going into remission and that sort of thing. So, and it's a mindset thing, isn't it? So, you know, being on the biohacker side, I'm hoping, you know, your kind of mindset was looking at, well, we'll just beat this thing. You know, we'll just come out the other side. Is that what you're thinking, or did it get pretty dark?
Yeah, I don't think there wasn't any dark moments about the cancer. For me, it was more when I had my second chemotherapy cycle, I got a reaction in my legs and they swole up.
Mm-hmm.
And it swole up so big that most of my clothes I couldn't wear. So I was wearing like triple XL pajamas a lot of the time, you know, and I wasn't really walking around. Well, I wasn't walking around because I couldn't walk and I was in a wheelchair. Every time I went to the hospital, first of all, I'd have a driver pick me up from my house and I'd have to lean on the driver's shoulder as I was walking to the vehicle. And then I'd need help in the vehicle, like lifting up both legs because it was really hard. And then I'd have a wheelchair pick me up from the other end when I was at the hospital, and I'll be wheelchaired everywhere. So when I was almost like incapacitated, I couldn't move anywhere. That was frustrating for me, you know, because, you know, I'm used to moving. I love moving, you know, buying my own stuff, just like doing things for myself. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy doing things. But when I had to have people do stuff for me, I felt like a bit of a burden for others because I'd never requested for anyone to do anything for me. So that took getting used to. People wanted to help, you know, family, friends, they wanted to help. But I was like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like bro, you got cancer and you got blood clots. You know, I felt like I was a burden when people really wanted to help, you know? But I was actually okay, apart from the fact that it was difficult to do certain things. And I think the fact I had blood clots or the deep vein thrombosis, as well as the cancer, I felt as though it was the blood clots that caused me more restrictions. Because when I said, oh, can I go to do hyperbaric oxygen therapy? They said, no, that could be dangerous. I was like, really? It's supposed to be okay for cancer? No, it's not because of that. It's because you have blood clots. I was like, mate, seriously? What about cryotherapy? No. Why not? Blood clots. I was like, mate, serious? And like when I was able to go to the gym, but they said, don't push too much because of the blood clots. Like, wow. So as you'd mentioned, you know, the whole imminent danger thing is mainly because of the deep vein thrombosis. And it wasn't really the cancer. The cancer is more of a slow killer, really. Whereas, the DVT, that's like, bam, that could just happen straight away. But yeah, mentally, I dealt with it okay. You know, but it was trying to deal with other people around me. And another thing was people wanted to call just to talk about that. Like, how are you feeling today? I'm good, man. I'm all right. You know, I'm just chilling. I have to relax. I just had chemo. Threw up a couple of days ago. Now I'm chilling. You know, can we talk about something else? How are you? You know? So I guess it was a bit of a struggle for others to not know like what to talk about. It's like, I mean, you're sick. Do you need anything? You know, and it's like, it felt awkward for me because it's like, I would like to talk about something else. Like the moment I see someone's name on my phone, I'm like, oh, all they're going to want to talk about is cancer. That is it.
And what was your, if you don't mind talking about, what was your kind of treatment protocol? How did you have any surgeries? Was it just chemo, or what have you had up until now?
So when it was first noticed that I have cancer, I think that the first thing, the first type of medication I had was the anticoagulants or the blood thinners, which was for the blood clots. So that was the first type of medication I needed to take. But I was also having lots of pain in my back because of the size of the tumor, which was in my stomach. And because of that, I was given morphine to deal with the pain. And because of the morphine also can cause constipation. So they were giving me laxatives as well. Those laxatives wasn't working. So they gave me 2 forms of laxatives with that. I also had another type of, some type of steroid tablet, but not the type that gives you muscles, unfortunately. I was told that it could potentially atrophy the muscle. I was like, look, man, if I'm going to take steroids, I want something that's going to give me muscles, And I could tell people, hey, I'm not natty. But no, it was this type was supposed to shrink what they call mass inside my abdominal wall and work alongside the chemotherapy. I also had another medication. I can't remember the names of them. There was lots of long names. One was to reduce the amount of uric acid. Because I was on the chemo, my uric acid levels was going up. So I had to take this in order to bring it down. I also took 2 forms of anti-sickness tablets. Anytime I had chemo, I was vomiting. And they said you need to have it for at least a few days until it kind of wears off. And then you can taper off the anti-sickness, but then when you go for another cycle, you need to start taking it again. When I read up on one of them, one of the anti-sickness was actually it was an antipsychotic drug, but as a secondary effect, it helped people who are sick. I was like, I don't want an antipsychotic drug. And it was, I was feeling quite numb every day. And I was like, why am I feeling so numb? It's probably because I'm taking all these drugs. And I couldn't quite, you can't put your finger on what is causing you to feel so numb because you're taking everything like every 3 hours. Another nurse come into your bed, hey, your medication. Another one taking your blood test, another one checking your blood pressure, another one taking your temperature. And another person coming to take your urine because I was weeing in like some kind of container because I couldn't walk, couldn't go to the toilet. So I was weeing in the container. And if I needed to do a number 2, I'd have to get like 2 male nurses to just like walk me to the toilet. It was wild. Yeah, so at one stage I was on quite a lot of drugs. And then it got to a point where I was like, I'm fed up of this. I don't want to be taking all of this. I want to know which ones I definitely need and which I don't, And it's all optional, really. But if the risks are high, then I'm like, okay, I'll continue to take it. When the pains were stopping, I was like, look, I don't want morphine, not taking it anymore. And some of the nurses didn't know what medications to perhaps not offer me if I'm not taking the morphine. Because if I came off the morphine, then I'm not going to have the constipation anymore. But they were still offering me laxatives every day. I was like, could you quit with the laxatives, please? I don't want to be taking that. I don't need to. So they took that off the record. And then the steroid one, eventually they took that away. And then the uric acid one took that away. The anti-sickness I had to keep on. But there was the antipsychotic one. I was like, get rid of that shit. I ain't using that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm allowed to swear here.
No, you can swear. It's fine.
Okay. So yeah, got rid of that. I think that was it in terms of the drugs. Right now, I'm on one thing right now, and it's called apixaban, and it is a anticoagulant. So I used to have the injections, but they've moved me over to the tablet form of the anticoagulants, which is blood thinners for the blood clots in my legs.
Okay, cool. So I was going to say, do you have like ongoing? Do you have like a plan going forward? Do you know how long you'll be on those for? And anything else to do with the cancer? Is it, what's your current status at the moment?
Right. So with that, what I was told from the hematology team who specialize in blood is that I'll need that for at least 1 year. And then they'll do an assessment to see, whether it's needed anymore. I think I would possibly be able to tell through how my body is feeling. At the moment, I have swollen ankles and feet, and I can feel that every day. And also my cardio levels has gone down drastically. So if I was to jog, let's say 200 yards, I will start puffing and panting, and I would have to like lean on a bench and be gasping for air. That's how it is at the moment.
Yeah.
So just little things like that will be a reminder. Okay, yeah, you got the blood clots going on.
Yeah.
Another thing which I had noticed is hot flushes. I've been having that for probably about 3 weeks now. I didn't have it at the end of my surgery. I was feeling quite fine, to be fair, apart from the pain around around my waist was where they done the incision, and that's where the surgery took place. So I was just feeling it there. Not even my scrotum, but like somewhere around the waistline. So that was a bit sensitive. But now the hormones itself has been affected, And I think it's because, one testicle has been removed, and because I was on chemotherapy. So a lot of my tissues has been affected. And I recently went for a blood test, and I'm probably going to do a post on this. And my testosterone levels has plummeted like crazy. I think maybe the average nanograms per deciliter is between 10 and 34. 10 is being the lower end, 34 being the high. And that works out to about 300 to 1,000 nanograms. I can't remember what that stands for. Between 3 to 1,000 something.
Yeah.
And mine was... So the lower end was 10 nanograms per deciliter. And it would be considered an emergency if it was 8, and you'd have to, seek potentially like exogenous testosterone, like THT, TRT, excuse me. And mine was at 3.2.
Wow.
3.2. The lowest end for them, they're like, okay, 8. It's pretty serious. Mine was 3.2.
Yeah.
So, you got some people that are taking TRT and they're like, yeah, man, I'm taking 1,000. Some are saying, yeah, I'm taking 250. Mine read at 92. I think about 90 something. It's like, this is wild. And like when I was reading about all the symptoms and stuff, okay, hot flushes, it makes sense why I feel that. But it said that you'll feel very weak. You probably won't be able to lift much. And I was thinking, actually, my lifting is still pretty strong. I don't know how that's even possible, but I am feeling lethargic. I'm waking up during the night and I'm freaking sweating, and I'm hot. And there's sometimes I've got things to do and I'm like, oh, what was I going to do again? And my mind just like not feeling right. And it doesn't make sense for me to drink more coffee because I know coffee is not going to do anything. I need more testosterone. That's what I need. And another thing I noticed is my hard-ons are not the same.
Yeah, Brian Johnson talks about this a lot, doesn't he? And his biohacking, and it actually ironically talks about his son's, comparing his erections to his son's erections. We won't get too into that. But it's kind of Brian Johnson from the US. He's jumped into the biohacking scene quite publicly and talks about his nighttime erections. So yes, you say you're not noticing them as vivid as before.
No. It's definitely not the same. Definitely not. because I remember I used to speak to friends of mine that have diabetes, and those friends, they hardly ever get any kind of nighttime erections or morning wood. And I'm like, that's crazy. I get it all the time.
Yeah.
And now, to not
sign of health, I think, isn't it? It's been used as a biomarker for health now. So, but yeah, Roger, I mean, what I find quite inspiring about all of this situation is that you very openly talk about everything that you're going through, you know, pretty much since day one of your diagnosis. You know, I follow you on Instagram, following your story, you post almost daily updates and talking about it. And, you know, as a biohacker and someone, you know, your brand is health, your brand is fitness, you're seen as, you know, one of these superhumans. You know, this is Roger Snipes. He's not going to get sick. He's not going to get ill. Did you consider not being public about this? Because so many people could, you know, because at the end of the day, this could ruin your brand. It could ruin your business. You know, you'll come out on the other side of this firing on all cylinders. I'm sure you will. But, you know, I think it's really inspiring that you've been so open and been so honest from day one about this whole thing. But like I say, did you think about it? Like, did you think, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to ruin my, you know, my brand. How did that conversation go?
That's really interesting you say that, because, you know, when I found myself in hospital, well, at first I did share with the people, with my audience, that, you know, I'm in hospital because I've been feeling some pains and they're, you know, running some tests. So I felt it was important to share that because it's a part of my fitness journey, even if it's not quite fit. The whole reason for me to set up social media in the first place was to take people on the journey that I was going through. And, you know, I think a lot of people get a bit caught up with like this idea of being an influencer. I don't even like that term, to be honest with you. If someone says to me, "Are you an influencer?" I'm like, no, I'm not. I create content. That is it. Content creator. Okay, I can work with that. I don't even like titles as such, to be honest with you. When people say, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, well, I do a few things. I don't like to title myself, okay, you are this, you are that, really. But like, I felt it was important to share. I like to share information. So if I discovered a new health protocol, which I think would be beneficial, I'm going to share it. And I remember when I first started my own podcast, I was like, well, I know lots of people involved in health. Let me do a podcast on that. Then I thought to myself, I know loads of people, and fitness is not my only interest. There's many things in this world that I'm interested in, you know. So I started to interview different types of people, like an activist, a person who'd been to prison for like 20 years, business coaches, and these are all interesting stuff on different levels. So I thought, why not share that? Now, my journey was, you know, everything had been about, okay, from bodybuilding to now health optimization and biohacking. And now this is the complete opposite. It's like, bro, you are sick.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, wow, this is very different. What am I going to tell people? Because I'm probably going to have to be here for a while. Well, I might as well let people know what's going on, because I'm not going to be posting.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think I'm dead, and I need people to understand what's going on. Yes, I'm a health optimizing biohacker, but yeah, obviously my health wasn't optimized enough. And for me, it was like, okay, this is like a different experience for me. Like, I've never been sick, really. Like, and if I have, it's been so temporary. You know, even when I had the flu, it was like 3 days. And the same with COVID. I've had COVID, and I remember I was even disappointed that it only lasted 3 days. I was like, wait a minute. So I had to stay in my house for 2 years because of 3 days of sickness. This waste of time. You know, I was so disappointed. I was just like, Okay. Okay. So this has come upon me unexpected. My plan is to be a centenarian, but and this is not going according to plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me just share it with the world. Let me just share it with people. Okay, guys. Recently been in hospital, this and that and this and that. Found out I got cancer. So I just thought, for me, it's like it's given me a grace period. Should people not see me post anymore, they know the reason why.
Yeah.
As opposed to, wow, he's just vanished. And when I posted that and I saw a big response from people, I was like, wow, I don't know anyone who'd be interested in that. Okay. So I thought to myself, maybe I'll just post some more updates, because people were really, some people were really concerned. Like, okay, what's happening now? When's the procedure? Like, what's going on? How long have you got left to live? We need to know. We've been following you for years. Don't leave us like this. And I'm like, wow, okay. And it was really interesting. So I just continued to just share it with people. And it was, the more I shared, the more people were engaged and the more encouraged I was to share more. So I didn't feel, at first I wasn't too sure, but I thought I need to share something. Afterwards, I was excited to share new updates. It felt like I'm learning something totally new now. Because, when you do training videos, you've been training for so long. For me, it's like, it's a bit boring.
Yeah.
It's like, now let's talk about cancer. Something totally new. Nobody talks about this. As someone who's supposed to be the epitome of health, this is like a whole bizarre thing that I'm going through, and I'm just taking people through it. So it's like I'm improvising as I'm going along,
Yeah.
So it's been a bizarrely interesting journey.
Yeah. And you mentioned like going through COVID, swimming through COVID almost. And do you think that your health and your biohacking has kind of put you through this process a lot better than it would have been if you weren't so fit and healthy? The bounce back. I think you've pretty much been training throughout. I haven't seen you. It's some of the videos you posted. You were in hospital that morning. Next, in the afternoon, you're down the gym and stuff against the doctor's orders. So, do you think that your health optimization has helped in this process?
I think it most definitely has. Not even all necessarily physically, but I think mentally. I think once your mental state is in the right place, that's where the healing process takes place. First of all, if your head, it's like your head can tell your body what to do. It's just fascinating. There's times I'll go to the gym and I'll say to myself, do you know what? Today is going to be a PB. And then because I told myself that, it's like I can't back out from that promise to myself. And then I'll do a PB. It happens over 90% of the time for me. It's like I just have this feeling. I tell myself this is what's going to happen, and that's what it is. And then, so when I found out I, had cancer, I was like, okay, well, how long is this going to be in me for before it's gone? Because I've got stuff to do. I ain't got time for this. This is wasting my time here. So I didn't take it super seriously as other people have when they're thinking, okay, thinking about their loved ones. And it did help me to have a bigger perspective on who's important in my life. I was like, well, if I'm to die, then I don't want to be wasting my time with people that are just wasting my time. People that are not really there for me, but my mind has gone all over the place now. What was the question?
I'm trying to remember now. It was more about your health optimization. So, has it helped you get through this process? I mean, we'll move on to a little bit about what you're doing now, because the first time we met was you reached out to us about PEMF therapy. Obviously, we've got a number of different PEMF devices, and you got yourself a lower intensity device that you sourced from us. But we've also seen you using the PEMF, which is the pulse center devices, the high intensity stuff. So we see you quite visibly on PEMF devices quite often, which is quite cool to see. are you still using PEMF as part of your health routine and biohacking at the moment?
Yeah. I use it every day, to be honest. Every day. So where did I first learn about PEMF?
That was my next question. So
really.
Yeah. When was, if you can remember, when was the first time because PEMF isn't something that everybody knows about. I think in the health optimization world, it's becoming more of the norm, but outside of that, it's an uphill struggle to educate people on what PEMF therapy is. So when do you think you first stumbled across those 4 letters? And
I think it was through one guy called Pete that owns a company called PEMF.
PEMF, yeah. So that's the high intensity devices. So yeah, he's got quite a few professional places around the UK where you can actually go and try out the higher intensity devices. So
yeah. So I came across him probably at one of the health optimization summits, and I decided to have him on my podcast and learn a bit more about it. And I think after that, I was like, wow, I need to get one for myself. Mm-hmm. He was telling me about how it healed him and all the great benefits of it. And I was thinking, with the different biohacks that I do, then they can all, work in unison with each other. Because I have an infrared panel. I've got about 3 panels in my house. And I'll use, I've got one in my bedroom. I've got 2 in my office. And I just thought, if I can use the mat with the PEMF mat with the red light, then that'll be amazing. I'm just always visualizing myself as like being superhuman, recovering really well, being super strong. And when I was looking at how it works, with your intracellular health, and how it can, remove like any kind of amyloid plaque within the brain, and, people who have things like osteoarthritis and sciatica, they can benefit from it. Then it's like, that people who are aiming to be superhuman, they're going to be really benefiting from it. It helps greatly with recovery, any kind of compromised tissue. If you need any, quick repair, recovery, or even priming the muscle before training, relaxing the body before sleep. So when you're going into, you're getting your room in a great kind of nice nighttime sleep hygiene setting, you could get your PEMF mat ready with that,
Yeah.
So it's like I can use it for any purpose. Prior or going to the gym, okay, had a intense gym session. All right, let me let me just like get my body into a more chilled state now.
Yeah.
Reduce certain inflammation, or like if I want to meditate. So there's the Accelerate device, which I've got from you guys, which it's so great because I've never seen a setting where it goes up to like 8-9 hours. I can't remember. I saw at least 4 hours on there.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll put it on for 4 hours then. I don't know how long. I'm like, I will have it on as long as I need. Like when I'm working on my laptop, I have a grounding mat, which I typically put my foot on. But like now I've got the PEMF, I'll just wear that instead.
Yeah. So you can do that at the same time.
Exactly.
It's good because you came in it like from the biohacking and performance enhancing kind of angle, So it's like, because a lot of people that come to us for PEMF therapy, a lot of the time, even the same reason that I was introduced to PEMF therapy, because I was chronically sick at the time. So it's good to see people shifting their mindset and coming for devices for health optimization, and not necessarily using it for a specific condition, but maybe just to get that extra rep out of their workout, or maybe to recover quicker and, and get back into the gym and these sorts of things. So it's really good to see that, and that we're starting to see this shift in people's mentalities and how they're using PEMF devices.
That's good. That's the way it should be. And I think it's really good to be used as a preventative health thing, or as opposed to, as you'd mentioned, people just like using it because of sickness. It's like the oxygen hyperbaric chamber. Lots of stage 4 cancer people will go there and use it. And I'm like, was you using it before? Probably not.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Don't wait until you're in that situation. You should be getting on that straight away. Fit, stay fit. Optimize, become great. Don't stay good, go great. That's my goal. I don't want to just be fit. Like, if people say, oh my God, wow, you look good. No, I'm like, yeah, I might look good, but I don't feel good. I want to feel amazing, And, with the whole thing that I've been through with regards to cancer, it's affected my hormones, and I need to get that optimized.
Yeah.
Once that's optimized, then I'll know I'll be able to do a lot more greater things. I know my sleep would be better. So my recovery is going to be better. And then I'll be able to do a lot more other things. So that's what we should be aiming for. And PEMF is definitely one of those devices that you don't need to pay to go to a center like PEMF, where, okay, these things are like high powered generators or whatever you call it. But it's quite expensive, continually going to these places. If you have something in your house, you don't really need to go anywhere. You could use it while you're at home, while you're, I can put on a belt, the PEMF belt, while I'm doing some body weight lunges, or exercising in my garden. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah. A lot more portable, isn't it? That's the thing now. So we always say to people, find a device that is easy to fit in with your life. So, that's, for me, that was a big part of when we designed the Accelerate device, was to find something that fits into your life, like you say. And, I really think we've achieved that. And with our device, I mentioned to you, I think you can use it in your sauna. You can, unofficially take it into an HBOT and all these sorts of things, because it doesn't need to be plugged in to be used. So, it's key for a lot of people to use it. So, the last thing we want is people spending in excess of £10,000 on an expensive PEMF device and never using it because it's too big, it's too bulky, it's putting time to it and all these sorts of things. So it's good that you hear that you've integrated it into your regime quite easily.
Yeah, that's super important. And even when I'm coaching people, I need to find out their lifestyle first before I can introduce a training system. Because it might be like, oh, how often should I be training a week? And I'm like, well, how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Some people are really busy and they don't have that much time. So we need to kind of figure it out and customize it for them. Something like this, the Accelerate belt. Wow. One of my visits to the hospital, I brought the belt with me. I'm in the waiting room, chilling. Hey, put on the belt, You know what I mean? I'm optimizing myself while I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That really is. And like when you've got these things working to optimize your cells and your brain function, reducing any kind of any fatigue that you have, and just to have your body function better, it's like, in effect, you're kind of burning unwanted fat as well, because you're just functioning better. You're revving your body up where your metabolism is working faster. You're thinking clearer, And what you'd mentioned about with the size of devices, there's certain things I just can't carry anywhere. But I'm like one of those that is I'm dedicated to it, where I would have these big devices, but not everybody's like that.
Yeah.
I've got something called a Nano V, which helps to reduce oxidative stress, but it looks like I don't know. It looks like an old typewriter, like a typewriter on steroids. It's quite big.
Yeah.
I've got this oxygen inhalation device, and it's massive. It's massive. Yeah. But I am happy to have something like that because I am dedicated to use it, and I will put health first over everything.
Yeah.
Not everybody's in that position to do that or has that interest. So
no. And talking about some of the smaller tech that we've seen you using on one of the YouTube videos, I think you're using BrainTap. How do you find that device? You still using that?
Yeah, I don't use it. I haven't used it for a few months now, to be honest, but it is really good. It's really good. It's one of those where, as I said, it really depends. Wherever your head is at, your body will follow.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got some people who, when they talk, they're just so negative. And then it never surprises me when they say, oh, do you know, I was sick the other day. Oh, I'm always sick. I'm like, yeah, I know. You didn't need to tell me that. I already knew before you even said. Yeah. So BrainTap is one of those things where it taps in your brain through different stuff. It's got like these different different settings on there where you can select like these subliminal messages where it talks to you. Like you've got some affirmations that you can listen to at night whilst it plays some music, which comes in a form of two type of things. So you've got something called isochronic tones, and it's got binaural beats, and they both work in unison with each other to entrain your brain so it can focus on a particular thing. So it brings your brain in a certain brainwave state whilst you are listening to these affirmations to train you to think a certain way. So I'm like, wow, the science in that is incredible. And it also comes with a visor as well. And on this visor, it's got these lights that hits your iris and goes through to your optic nerve and goes straight to your brain. And another way to connect with your brain to do that brain entrainment. So it's got, different methods in which it helps you to focus on different things. So if you want to hypnotize yourself in a certain way, yeah, you can find that in one of the modules on BrainTap. If you want to have more energy, you can rev it up to a beta state, or if you want to have a more deeper sleep, if you're struggling with sleep, you have insomnia, you could change the setting. I remember I tested it out on my daughter at the time. I think she was maybe 6, and I was like, check this out. And I put it on her head, and she was sitting down, she was looking at it, and I swear within 2 minutes, her head was back, tongue was out. I was like, wow, this thing is powerful. It really is. And it's okay to use on kids because they've got like kids settings on there as well. So if you have a child and I don't know, let's say they misbehave a lot, you just look for the setting, be like, okay, this kid's sorted. Put the setting
That's
on.
That's a good tip.
Put this on. Got some great
I've
music.
got a couple of little ones that could do with that, so I'll give that a try. Have you got any other biohacks that you like your favorite biohacks? Something that if you was in a desert island, you take with you?
I mean, there's many. I've got loads, but there's some which are just convenient and that I'll use all the time. And the PEMF and red light therapy is probably it, to be honest with you. I've got some other ones. They're more fancy type of devices. I think one's called, I can't remember the name of it. Like neuroscience or something. It's like you put it on your ears and it's got these nodes on the top of the headphones, and it touches your scalp and it sends electrical pulses into the hippocampus of your brain, and it entrains your brain to learn new physical tasks that you're doing. So if you're learning tennis, you can use this to train your brain or prime your brain to learn quicker. Or if you're learning like the piano, which is another physical thing, you can put that on. And again, you prime your brain. So whilst you're learning it, it's like your brain records it a lot quicker.
Sounds like a program in the Matrix.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yeah.
Next level
you just
stuff.
tap it in now. Yeah. Black belt in Taekwondo.
What was that?
Black belt.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. But yeah, man, it's pretty amazing. However, I don't often use that because you have to apply gel to it, and the whole priming process, it's not super convenient like the other stuff what we speak of. If you can make it convenient, then it's cool. So sometimes I'm by my laptop, I get the red light next to me, I get my foot on the PEMF, and I can have my Nano V, which blows out this kind of oxygen vapor in my direction, and I could just stay in one spot and be optimized from all these different things without doing much while I work, you know? The moment I have to go somewhere and go out of, like, it's almost out of my way, like I'm spending my time on you specifically, then there's a chance that it's just going to get emitted out the process. So I've got other stuff as well, but I won't go into those. Red light and PMF. If it's going to be a desert, then I won't need the sauna. I love the sauna. I really. Yeah. If I'm on a desert and it's hot already, I
don't need it.
Yeah, I won't need it. But I've been using the sauna for many years. I think from when I was 16 years old, the moment I could join one leisure center, I was using that at least 2 to 3 times a week. And since then, I've been quite consistent with the sauna. But now I have it at home. I'll use it, at least 3 times, sometimes 4 times a week. I've been told I should only do it about 3 times a week for about 30 minutes. But sometimes I'm in there for an hour because it's an infrared sauna. So it's not as intense. It goes up to 70 degrees, but normally it maxes at around 60. But with my condition, I normally just keep it at around 50, 52. I mean, just relax, watch a video while I'm in there.
That's it. One little thing, just off the beaten track a little bit, we found an article when we was doing some research for this podcast, and it quotes you saying that horse mince lasagna is a better option to beef. Did we find that correct? I was going to understand what your logic was behind is horse beef. Horse lasagna something that you is in the kitchen.
You know what? I think I was working with a meat company or something. They used to send me different meats, and it was like exotic type of meats, and I just thought, let me just do a post about it. But in terms of the nutritional value, I'm not too sure off the top of my head. It was just something different. And there was a couple of people that are like, what? Horse? You're eating horse? It tastes quite interesting, but I can't remember the nutritional benefits from that. I think it's supposed to have lower levels of fat and cholesterol, from what I remember. Definitely lower levels of fat, maybe more iron. But this is a long time ago. Like, when was that article?
I'm not sure. It was just an interesting one we found, and I thought I'd quiz you on it either way.
Right. Yeah, I was trying different stuff. There was like ostrich, had quite a bit of ostrich. Crocodile? I'm sure I had crocodile. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think I had again. I think I tried once. Sorry about that. I can't remember the nutritional value.
No problem at all. So just kind of one more question really before we wrap this up. You've obviously been like coaching people and helping people through their own health journeys, throughout your life. That's kind of what you've been doing a lot of this. Do you think this whole episode with cancer and everything is changing the way that you're going to do this? Do you think that you're going to move forward differently at all with your coaching? Have you learned anything from all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's an emotional journey for a lot of people. And, throughout this whole episode, I've had a lot of people reach out to me to share their own personal stories or their own loved ones that have gone through it and how they are really inspired by what I've been sharing. So I thought to myself, well, maybe it doesn't need to stop here. Now that I have stepped into the arena of cancer, I can now talk of it. You know, I'm out the other end. I can speak of it. I'm now a survivor. So I qualify to talk about it. I can talk about my experience. So it's almost like when people say, yeah, I'm sick and I'm doing this, so I can't train. I'm like, actually, well, I've been very sick. This is what I done. You know, it's like I qualify now to speak in these different things. However, I also want to spend a bit more time talking to and working with charities like Cancer Macmillan. You know, I've been in conversation with some of the press team, some of the management team, and they've got lots of campaign ideas on how they want to spread the word. And I'm like, I want to be a part of that. You know, I really do. You know, because a lot of people are unaware, and a lot of people have these preconceived notions about cancer, as you'd mentioned earlier about it being a death wish or a death sentence, rather. And with men, they're probably less likely to get checked up or talk about it. You know, when I started to share it with the world, I had guys that messaged me and told me about their own episode. And they said, I haven't shared this with anyone. There's one guy, I hadn't even shared it with my girlfriend. And I was like, wow, you know, and that's like, this is like your immediate partner. This is the closest person with you, you know? So it's quite fascinating. So for me, it's like, I do want to focus on optimal health, but at the same time, I want to also, it's like my eyes are now open to those who are not in optimal health. You know, and I think sometimes these people are forgotten.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to look good. Everyone wants to look great. But, you know, people don't really care so much about those that are really sick. Unless it's someone like in their immediate family.
Yeah.
And I want to be the person who, and it's kind of a weird one, really. Like, I want to show people who are who have cancer, there's definitely a way out of it. And as long as you got the right mindset, it makes things a lot easier. But I also want to help introduce those people into biohacking protocols.
Yeah.
Not just people who are fit that want to be really fit, but those who are really unfit. Those are close to death. It's like, okay, let's try and bring you out of here. And so I've been working with Macmillan. There's some big campaigns coming out very soon. I'll be posting about it at some point. And I want to do more stuff like that. Still focused on, you know, optimal health and, you know, getting in good condition and stuff. But really, that's where my heart is at right now.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for you, it's a personal story. You're going through it. It's, you know, and I think it's really inspiring, like you say, how open you're talking about this. And, you know, before this episode, I knew the subject we were going to be talking about, you know, and the level of detail you go into as well. You know, I didn't realize we were going to be talking about your morning wood and your ejaculations either. So, you know, thanks for sharing every inch of everything that's going on. So I didn't mean to use the word inch there either. So I apologize for that. But yeah, Roger, thanks for your time today. Where can people find you if somebody wants to reach out for you on their fitness journey, on their cancer journey, or anything, you know, where's the best place for someone to find you?
Well, they can find me on Instagram. I'm normally on Instagram all the time. Just shoot me a DM on Instagram. You know, if they want to talk about coaching, they could DM me there. Or if they want to talk about their own personal sickness journey, if it's cancer, hey, I'll be happy to talk about it. And, you know, as I mentioned, I'm working with Macmillan now. So, you know, stories can be shared. If they're more focused on health and fitness, again, DM me, or they can email me at support@uhpfitness.com. UHP means unlocking human potential.
Nice.
Those who don't know. So, you know, that's one of my key focuses, really, just helping a person be in their most optimal self. But yeah, I'm also on other social media platforms, but the main place to contact me would be Instagram.
Okay, no worries. And we'll leave the links to these to your Instagram below. And, anybody that's listening on different platforms, if you can leave us a 5-star review, we can get more amazing guests like Roger on our podcast. So yeah, thanks again, Roger, for joining us today.
Hey, all good, my brother. Pleasure's all mine. You take care.